Hello, everyone, and welcome back to True Self. So far in this series, we have talked about forgiveness, gratitude, and self love. And if you have followed along, you may have noticed a common theme. We are not really talking about manifestation techniques. We're not talking about which affirmation is the best or how many times you should visualize, but we're talking about internal transformation. And that naturally brings us to today's topic, that is self concept. So before I jump into the video, please feel free to like my videos and subscribe if you find my videos helpful. Okay, so if I had to choose like one pillar that ties everything together, it would be this one. Because whether we are aware of it or not, our 3D is continuously reflecting the assumptions we hold about ourselves. So, what is exactly self concept? So, I like to think of self concept as three parts. So, the first one is how do you see yourself? Then, how do you see others? And how do you see yourself in relation to others? So, let's break this down. The first part, how do you see yourself? So, it just means all the assumptions you have about yourself. For example, you could have an assumption like you're good at driving, or you're really sociable, you're a good friend, good husband, good son or daughter. Assumptions like that. You have some general assumptions. So basically, it's all assumptions that you have about yourself, the belief about yourself. And just like the examples of all the positive assumptions, you could also have some negative assumptions about yourself. Maybe something happened in your past and then you took on that belief. For example, like things don't go as you want, or jobs are difficult to find, or relationships are hard for you. So those assumptions just become, yeah, they're part of you now. Or maybe somebody told you that, it's hard to get tickets for some show or something, and then you believed them, and then that became your assumption. So, in essence, it's everything you assume to be true for yourself. May it be good things or bad things. The next part is how you see others. And this is relates to others, other people, or other things in your life. For example, you have a story that you say about your parents, your friends, your husband or wife, or girlfriend or boyfriend, or other people in your life. You have an assumption that they are like this or that and they behave a certain way. The same applies to objects or things in your life. For example, like money or jobs. You could have an assumption that money comes to you easily, or an assumption like jobs are hard to get. Maybe somebody told you that the economy is bad and it's really hard to find a job, and then you might have believed them. So things like that. So that could, you can take on other people's assumptions, and then that becomes a belief. And finally, how you see yourself in relationship to other people and other things. For example, like you might have the assumption that the market is bad and jobs are hard to find, but you might have an assumption about yourself that your job is stable, or money still comes to you easily even when the market is bad. Or maybe it's an assumption you hold about somebody else. You could have an assumption about a person that he always gets the job even if the market is bad. Or maybe you have somebody in your life who's an asshole to people, but he's really good to you. So you could have specific assumptions like that. But in general, all it boils down, it's all the assumptions you have. But when we kind of segregate this into different parts, you can kind of see where you might be going wrong. And this could be particularly helpful when it comes to SPs, anything in general. For example, like um, you could have a very good self concept about you. Like you could believe that you're worthy of love and good relationships. You are like a good person. You deserve the best. But then you could see that specific person differently. You might see them as somebody who doesn't choose you, who doesn't want to be with you, and things like that. So even if your self concept about yourself is really good, you could still mess it up because you hold a different concept about that person. So now, how do we practice this? How do we improve our self concept? So for improving our self concept, we can basically kind of visualize, use the SATs or affirmations. Personally, I use both, and for me, I find that both affirmations and visualizing works for me. And when it comes to specific self concept, for example, like I'm good at job, or I always have money and things like that, or I'm chosen, I'm loved. It's easier to make an affirmation and say that instead of visualizing that concept. But you could also visualize things like that. You could just feel being chosen, or just experience it in your awareness, the feeling or the satisfaction of being chosen by your SP, your friends, your family, having money and feeling secure and things like that. So that could also work. So, in essence, the only kind of rule you should follow to have a good self concept about yourself, about other things or people, and the relationship you have between those things and people is to just follow the golden rule that Neville talks about. Always say good things, say the lovely things about yourself and also about others. Never put yourself down, never joke about anything negative or any unwanted states. For example, like you could say that you might joke that, yeah, I'm clumsy or some stuff like that, and by you might not be aware of it, but it could just become a belief, even if you're not saying that purposely, right? So just say lovely things about yourself, especially other people. Always say lovely things about them, especially if you want to change that person. I say change the other person, but in the end, you're just changing yourself. You change how you see them. So say lovely things about them. See them as the best version of them, as the version of them that you want to experience. And that's the only way you should see them for you to experience that. And yes, and yeah, just practice or whatever method you want to do. Catch yourself when you start thinking in a negative manner, or when you start saying something, or when you hear somebody say something that you don't like. You could say inwardly that you don't agree with that, or just be aware about what other people tell you and what you hear and what you see, what you read in the news or read on social media. Don't automatically take them as your own beliefs or assumptions. So yeah, so that's basically self-concept, and as I mentioned, just practice it using affirmations or SATs. I think affirmations are quite useful and faster to do when it comes to self-concept. You could just repeat, um, yeah, some small affirmations that feel natural to you. So yeah, that's self-concept. Just remember always, what identity are you bringing into your awareness? And if that identity or version or the thought isn't serving you, just try to release it. And I mentioned before some methods I use to release unwanted states or versions of you. Use any of that method or just meditate to release it if it's bothering you a lot. And most of the times, we don't even have to give attention to these unlovely states or unlovely thoughts. You can just be aware of them and then just go back to the state or the identity that you want. And yeah, so it's just about remembering who you truly are. Once you kind of practice this, eventually you will realize your true essence and true power, that you are the I am and you are the source. And once you can really connect with your source and slowly experience that, it'll be much easier to kind of naturally believe the good things about yourself and about others. And it won't feel fake or unnatural saying things like, I am chosen, or I'm loved, or I'm the luckiest person alive, and any other affirmation. So just practice this, meditate on your true self, meditate on who you really are. And as long as you slowly practice this, you will experience that inner self more and more, and it'll become easier for you. So yes, that's it for today. I would love to hear your feedback and if you have any questions. So until next time, stay connected to your true self.